by nature, explorers. The same curiosity that sends us to the stars at the speed of thought urges us to go there in reality. And whenever we make a great new leap, we elevate humanity, bring people and nations together, usher in new discoveries and new technologies. So remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet.
Hello and welcome to Wednesday. Now Wednesday comes from the Old English language Woden's Day, meaning Odin. Now Odin was a ruler of the Norse gods. The Romans later connected him to Mercury, as they were both kind of guides. I think that for the Romans he was a guide of souls, and also for the Vikings he kind of led the dead and took them to Valhalla and things like that. So yeah, they're all kind of connected with guides. Or well, Mercury for the Romans was seen more as kind of like a messenger of the gods, and I think it might have been because they saw it in the sky moving really quickly. So you only really see it in the morning or the afternoon because it's quite close to the sun, and because it's quite close to the sun it does only take about 88 days to actually orbit the sun, so it moves really quickly. So maybe our ancestors saw it moving really quickly in the sky and they named it after the messenger god, Mercury. Now if we actually look at it as a planet, its orbit is very eccentric. So its nearest approach to the sun is around about 28.8 million miles, and then its farthest point from the sun is 43.4 million. So 28, 43. So it's quite a distance different. So it orbits in, a lot more of a kind of oval than the other planets. It really does move in close and move far away. The planet Mercury itself is the smallest of all the planets, and as we know, the first from the sun, making it a scorched world. As you can imagine, being that close to the sun, it's probably going to be quite hot and scorched. So a day temperature on Mercury is 430 degrees Celsius, and at night it's a freezing minus 180 degrees Celsius. So it experiences some of the most extreme temperature changes of any planet so far. 430 degrees Celsius to minus 180. Yeah, I don't want to go there. I don't want to live there. It's going to be horrible. I'm going to be extremely hot or frozen. So there seems to be no middleman there. It's not actually much bigger than our own moon. So we've got our moon up in the sky that we can see most nights. Not much bigger. And like our moon, it's littered with craters from impacts of bits of rock flying and smashing into it from millions of years ago. One huge one being the Caloris Basin, which is a massive crater about 960 miles wide. And it's where a huge asteroid or body crashed into it a long time ago. And the shock waves actually travelled through and across the planet, creating weird sort of hilly terrain on its opposite side to where it actually hit. So it's almost like it pushed some of the planet through and it pushed it out on the other side. It also has extinct volcanoes. So there's massive, ginormous, huge lava plains and vast cliffs with some craters. Some of the craters' bottoms never see daylight. So they actually think now that they sent a couple of probes there and have had a look, and one actually crashed into the planet on purpose once they finished with it so they could get a closer look. They don't actually see daylight, meaning they think that there's frozen water could be inside these craters in the shadows because they never get heated up by the sun. So there may even be water on the hottest, well, I'd say the most scorched, not the hottest, because Venus is the hottest that's coming up, if not. It's one of the hottest planets. So even there, you can have frozen water. So possibility to get water, live there, maybe, maybe not, probably not with the temperatures. It's a bit mad. Now the spaceships that have gone there and searched around and mapped it all and looked at it and found all these craters and all these cool things that we can see, they did find a very strange feature that's more for the Star Wars fans and if you don't know it, Google it. So Han Solo is a Star Wars character, and he happened to have been frozen by Darth Vader in one of the scenes. I'm not a massive Star Wars fan, so I'm not, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know this story and I've seen them and I do enjoy them. And we think that this actually looks a lot like a carbon frozen Han Solo. So have a look at the picture and make your eyebrows up, but maybe he's there, frozen in carbon. Now, Mercury itself is unusually dense, making scientists kind of lean towards the idea that it has a really big or larger than usual sort of iron core, but still has a kind of extremely thin atmosphere. Because it's very small, it can't really keep the atmosphere, and the sun rays that are close to it are just blasting it off into space constantly. So it can't really hold any atmosphere, so it has a really thin atmosphere. There are some people out there saying that they think maybe Mercury was a big planet, but something else crashed into it, which is why it had a big iron core. It was big with a big iron core. Something hit it and knocked all of its sort of like outside surface off, or took a lot of it off. As we know, there were a lot of collisions between us and other planets and things like that when we were young, and luckily not around, because that would have hurt. Now onto the actual astronomy side of it, which is what I enjoy the most, trying to see planets and what you can see on them. Mercury is notoriously hard to see just because of how close it is to the sun in our skies. Now we always say don't look at the sun through a telescope or binoculars, or even with your eyes. With your eyes it's going to hurt, it's not worth doing. Through binoculars and a telescope you'll instantly go blind, you won't even know, there's not really any pain receptors in your eyes. So just don't do it. Don't look at the sun through anything unless you're with a professional like me, or anyone else that you know out there with a society or a group that does it. Because you can get special filters that you put on your telescope so you can look at the sun safely. Problem being, if you put a filter on so you don't burn your eyes and end up being a pirate, because we always look through one eye as astronomy, you're not going to be able to see the planet because it's going to be too dim. If you take the filter off and try to look at the planet, you might accidentally look at the sun, go blind in the eye, you won't be able to see the planet. Now I don't want that, and I'm sure you don't either. So there are two really good times to see it, and the best times are one called its greatest elongation, and that's pretty much when in orbit, in our skies, it moves the furthest away from the sun up into the sky before it then starts heading back towards the sun. That's called its greatest elongation, its furthest point. So you have eastern and western, depending on which side it is, and also depending on which side it is, it will either be up in the afternoon or the morning. So in its 88-day cycle, there's probably only a few days where it's at its greatest elongation. It's a really good time to see it, because it'll be before the sun rises, you'll get to have a look, or just after it sets, you might be able to get to have a look as well. Now there is another good time to see it, but it doesn't happen very often. I was lucky to be out a couple of years ago to see it, and also a couple of years later it happened again, and that's a transit. So if you wait a few more years, the planet gets perfectly aligned to the sun. It actually goes across the front of the sun. So if you have a special certified filter and a professional with you, you can look at this and you'll actually see the planet going across the front of the sun. It looks absolutely amazing. It's awesome. So this is someone in our Facebook group got this picture. You can really see it there on the left hand side. Stunning. To watch that with the sunspots on the right hand side going across the sun, really, really, really cool. So I don't think it's happening for a few more years yet. I have to Google it and find out when the next one is. Now I managed a few years ago, I think it was about 2015, something like that, only using an iPhone. It's an iPhone 5, so not even a good one. I've now got an SE, which is slightly better. I took a picture through my telescope using a filter. Now if you look at the picture, all of the white is the sun. There's a sunspot at the top of the square you can see, and that bottom little dot is the planet. So I've zoomed in a little bit there on the right for you, so you can actually see the planet right there, and you can watch it through the day as long as it's not cloudy, going across the front of the sun. So it's a really cool time to see it. You're actually watching the orbit of Mercury go across the front of the sun. Now something else that's cool that you can see with this planet, and you can also see it with Venus, is because these two planets are in between Earth and the sun. As they go around in orbit of the sun, they actually have phases like our moon. So you actually get to see the phases that go around, and this is one of the things that like Galileo saw back in the day. and he's a great mathematician, astronomer by the way. He actually saw this happening, and in those days everyone thought that everything evolved around the Earth, and this is one of the things that proved that actually we go around the sun. The sun is the center of the solar system, and we go around the sun. So you can actually see with your own eyes proof of us orbiting around the sun. He also looked up and saw Jupiter and its 4 moons, which you can see with a telescope, even binoculars. And that helped as well, because he saw the moons there going around in circle around Jupiter, and he thought the same with the sun. So thanks to all of this, we now know that actually the sun is the main thing. Well, it's 99.8% of everything in the solar system, so we just go around it in orbit. Now, to finish off, this is a very random fact, and you might have to think out the box a little bit. So, although Venus is the closest planet to Earth, Mercury actually spends more time nearer to Earth than Venus does. And that's because it orbits more times on average. So it actually spends more time closer to us than Venus does. That's a bit weird. And if you can't get your mind around it, have a Google, have a little look, investigate, find stuff out, question. It's always good to question and research and, make your brain work. It's good for you apparently. So that's just to finish it off. So clear skies, and remember, there's a billion worlds in your back garden.